You're listening to the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
You can find us, and we are on the Angry Marks Podcast Network. You can check us out at AngryMarks.com/podcast. Angry Marks is the best place to get all your professional wrestling and mixed martial arts news. And the podcast network has awesome shows like the Raw Reaction, NXT Report, Impact Implosion, Over the Top Radio, Thursday AMP. What else am I forgetting, Kev?
I think you nailed them all, other than Glove Up or Shut Up.
Glove Up or Shut Up, which specializes in mixed martial arts. Always a great show. Well, this is the bearded wonder, Zane Pasley. I am joined this evening by our awesome producer, Killa Kev. What's going on, Kev?
Not much, sir. How are you this weekend?
I am doing fantastic. I hope everyone had an awesome Christmas holiday. Happy Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year. We've got them all covered. This is our last show of 2016, so we're going to do a bit of wrap-up on it. Do want to let our listeners know that the incredible Will Huckabee, is on assignment tonight. He's in Atlanta working for Atlanta Wrestling Entertainment, so he will not be joining us this evening, but we plan to have a fun show, and we will be back next week for our awesome first edition of 2017. So, Kev, did you get any wrestling-related Christmas gifts?
Nope, I didn't get anything wrestling-related. I did not even get the gift of Jericho.
Oh my!
Apparently, I didn't make the list.
Oh my! Oh my! Well, I got two wrestling-related gifts, which were fun for me. I got a nice John Cena T-shirt. I haven't owned a John Cena T-shirt for myself since it was first shirts. It was like baseball shirt, and it had WW like in the old school font, and on the back it said Word Life. Do you remember that shirt?
I do.
So that was probably his first or second shirt ever, right?
Honestly, I can't keep up. It's been years ago, and it's hard to think that John Cena has been in this business long enough that I can't even remember small details like that anymore.
Well, I think it was still in his Thugonomics PhD Doctor of Thugonomics phase, so I'm thinking it was one of his very first shirts. I could be wrong, but I got a new shirt. I asked for the PBR logo shirt because, as longtime listeners know, I am a fan of Pabst Blue Ribbon. Unfortunately, the person getting it for me messed up and gave me the alternate shirt that they provided when PBR sued them. So I guess it's still cool. It's awesome. I've got a John Cena T-shirt. So I never give up, I guess. And then I got a wild gift that I was not expecting. I got a pillowcase, and it's the image of Jesus standing over a globe, and then Macho Man coming up behind him and attacking him. So I sleep on that at night now.
Wow, Jesus getting pierced?
Yeah.
Oh.
In pillowcase form.
That's something.
Yeah, it's odd. So
you're definitely loading that one up in the pillow fight, right?
What's that?
You're definitely loading that one up in the pillow fights with the kids, right?
I guess so. So we've got some year-end wrap-up things that we're doing tonight. If our listeners do not like what we're saying, if they disagree with us, then they can feel free to send us a Facebook post and saying who they think that these things are or should be. And then next week we will be doing some predictions for 2017. But let's start. We're doing best male wrestler, best female wrestler, best tag team, and best promotion. So let's go ahead and start with the tag team. Kev, who was your tag team of 2016?
I think no doubt the tag team of 2016 has to be the New Day.
Yeah.
I mean, because, look, they set the record for longest tag team reign, and really for much of the year, they were just a fun team to watch. They were put into a lot of good feuds. And I think fans really appreciate it. Of course, I think it's finally come to its end. They no longer have the titles now. They lost that just a couple of weeks ago. And I think it's gotten a little long in the tooth, but for much of 2016, I think you can definitely say that is the tag team everybody looked forward to watching the most every week.
Okay, well, my buddy, Rich Abbott, who is the founder of Wrestling Theology Fellowship, he agreed with you. He picked New Day as the tag team of the year. The Prophet Rick Craig, who was the founder of the Undisputed Wrestling Show, he's a great independent manager. He chose Broken Matt Hardy and Brother Nero, which another top contender. What'd you think about that pick?
That's a pretty strong pick too. And definitely it generated a lot of conversation, and it got a lot of people to watch TNA in a time where very few people now are watching TNA, and they're still losing audience. That has definitely been one of the saving boons of TNA for sure.
Yeah, if Broken Matt Hardy hadn't been such a force to be reckoned with at the beginning of the year, without Brother Nero, like he was opposing Brother Nero, that's what really started off. If they had been a tag team for the entire year, then I would have put a little more credence towards it, but that's a strong pick. My buddy Rex Sharp, who is the drummer and singer for the Razor Ramones, and he has another awesome podcast called Punk Rock and Wrestling. If our listeners want to check that out, then check that out on Facebook. Punk Rock and Wrestling podcast. It's pretty great. He chose American Alpha, who I don't know if you've been watching tonight. I watched a little bit of SmackDown. They surprisingly won the SmackDown Championship tonight. So they held the SmackDown Tag Team Championship and the NXT Championship all in 2016. So that's another strong pick. What'd you think about American Alpha this year?
They're a good team. And I really like them. They're I hesitate to use the phrase throwback. But so I don't think throwback's the word. They harken back to an era in WWE where tag team wrestling was vitally important. Quite honestly, I think that if they were not, if you took them out of WWE today and you put them in like mid-80s NWA, they'd be even more successful than they have been the last year or two in WWE.
Okay.
Good. Not nowhere near as dominant as New Day, especially on the mic, especially as far as characters go. But when you get down to Raw wrestling, definitely right up there at the top of any team wrestling right now.
Okay. I think it's another strong pick. They are definitely held a lot of championships over 2016. And as you said, they harken back to when tag team wrestling was a bigger deal. I definitely think that they harken back to the Steiner brothers, even though they're not two brothers. They definitely have that amateur background and have translated it well into pro wrestling. So that's another strong pick.
They are definitely reminiscent of Charlie Haas and
Shelton Benjamin.
Shelton Benjamin. I cannot believe my mind just goofed on that. I can't believe they skipped it. Definitely one of my favorite tag teams of all time. I would highly compare them with them.
Yeah, two amateur background, and that's another good point. But you had mentioned throwback, and you didn't want to say that American Alpha were a throwback team, but my pick is definitely a throwback team. It's the Revival. Two-time NXT Tag Team Champions. And over 2016, if you look at their matches, their big matches, they have probably 3 out of the top 10 match of the year in any promotion. both their battles with Gargano and Ciampa, and then their match with American Alpha, I don't see how I can see for the pick for the New Day because they held the championship for almost all of 2016. But if you look at the matches, I can't think of 3 great matches that the New Day did. They had some good promos, but I can't think of 3 great matches that they had in 2016. So I'm going to go with the Revival.
Yeah, Revival's definitely a great pick as well.
And I actually received a Revival T-shirt for my birthday. So wasn't for Christmas, but I got one for my birthday. So any other tag teams that you want to throw out there for honorable mentions?
I can't really think of any that are that strong other than the ones that we already picked.
Well, I'm going to throw out Gargano and Ciampa, even though they're in the spotlight for all of 2016. They finished up their independent dates, and you got to remember, in 2015, they weren't a tag team. They've never really tagged together, so they've gelled really well, and they're at the top of the NXT card these days. I think that they did a great job over the year. And I'm also going to throw in, even though it's very late, a tag team that's probably going to be in the discussion for 2017, the current Raw Tag Team Champions, Cesaro and Sheamus. And I'm going to throw out an independent tag team that I've seen quite a bit. I'm going to throw out 2 of them. I'm going to throw out the Soul Shooters, which is Apollo Starr and Remy Wilkins. I'm going to throw out TVZ, which is Tom Van Zant and Troy Van Zant. So 2 great tag teams that I've worked with a lot over this past year.
Yeah, and Gargano and Ciampa, really, personally, one of my favorite tag teams to watch this year. I just didn't rank them higher simply because they had not been a team all that long. But I am expecting a lot of things coming out of 2017, and for that reason, I didn't rank Sheamus and Cesaro that high either. They've just started coming into their own as a tag team now. Just the thing that makes me nervous is, are we going to keep them as a tag team for any long term in 2017? Or are we eventually going to break this apart either just because WWE's tired of them tag teaming, or are they going to blow that up into yet another feud, which I really hope they don't do.
Yeah, I think that they've got great chemistry together, the heel and face dynamic tagging together, and usually when they've done that, it's been 2 huge superstars, like Shawn Michaels and Steve Austin, or Mankind and The Rock, that you knew that they weren't going to be around together for very long. But this team, I could see them going a little while with this dynamic.
I hope so. I mean, honestly, we've seen Cesaro and Sheamus as great singles wrestlers for a long time. Obviously, Sheamus longer than Cesaro in WWE terms, but I really think I really would appreciate it if they kept them together long term as a tag team. Go ahead and let them wrestle singles matches every once in a while, but I think they actually make that tag team division stronger. And the longer that they're together, the more credibility I think that gives to the tag team division, and I think you can't give enough credibility to the tag team division, especially with how WWE has tended to treat it over the years.
I forgot to mention my buddy Kyle DeWeese, who is an awesome stand-up comic. He's opened up for Mick Foley. He's a great comedian up in the South Bend, Indiana area. He had said that the Young Bucks were his tag team of the year. We totally did not discuss them. They've held the IWGP Junior Tag Team Championships. I think, have they been Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions this past year?
Yeah.
So they're the IWGP New Japan 6-man tag champs with Kenny Omega. So they're definitely a team worth mentioning.
Yeah, and you know what? I hate to say it in a way. I'm really biased against them. Because I don't like their gimmick. But then again, that should just go to show you just how good they really are, because so many people don't like their goddamn gimmick. I mean, I don't really like a lot of their matches. I don't like their style. I don't like their promos. I mean, I mean, I just don't like them. And to be quite honest, if you told me Young Bucks were on a card, that wouldn't be reason enough for me to go buy a ticket. But, my opinion aside, who really gives a fuck? Because they actually put asses in seats. They've been putting asses in seats for years, and that's why promotions can't get enough of them. That's why promotions keep putting titles on them. So, in that context, it's, you can't argue that they're not a successful tag team, because clearly they are.
Yeah, and whether you or Jim Cornette like them, they do sell a lot of tickets for promotions, and they sell a heck of a lot of T-shirts. I've got friends that every time I see them, they're wearing a different Young Bucks T-shirt, so they definitely need to be in that consideration, because people love them.
Yeah, and really thinking about it, I can't think of too many tag teams today that have so much word of mouth appeal among people than the Young Bucks. New Day's sure, but New Day's relatively new. They've only been together as a team for what, 2 years? Not even 3 yet.
Yeah.
Young Bucks have been doing this for like almost a decade now. So yeah,
they've known each other personally for a long time.
Well, I'd hope so.
All right. Once again, this is the Wrestling Nerdcast. We are on the Angry Marks Podcast Network. Check out AngryMarks.com for the best professional wrestling and mixed martial arts coverage on the internet. Also, hit the subscribe button for Angry Marks. Get all the great Angry Marks Podcast Network shows delivered to your mobile device every day. It's an amazing thing. Let's go ahead and hit the female wrestler of the year. Who was your choice there, Killa Kev?
Oh, far and away, Asuka.
Okay, why do you say Asuka?
Look at her career before coming into WWE and NXT. She just had an absolute killer year this year, undefeated, NXT champion. She just rips apart everybody. She legitimately cleared out the women's division in NXT. WWE even had to try to bring in ringers like Mickie James to take her down, and that didn't even work. So, I mean, who the hell is going to defeat Asuka in 2017? I mean, it's not going to be Awesome Kong. She retired. I cannot think of any woman in any professional wrestling organization anywhere in, this year, last year, maybe even the year before, who would be able to even be a threat to Asuka now. I mean, it's just hands down blown away.
Great point.
I'm sorry, what was that, Zane? You were breaking up.
Well, and I was just said that's an awesome point that you were making.
Yeah, so there's Asuka and there's everybody else, really.
And you had mentioned Awesome Kong. She's actually going to be on the new Netflix series about Glow. So
yeah, I heard that.
All right. Well, our buddy Kyle DeWeese, the comedian, he said Sasha Banks was his choice. Rich Abbott from Wrestling Theology Fellowship and the Prophet Rick Craig both said Charlotte. So they traded back and forth on Raw. They main evented a pay-per-view, the first ever Hell in the Cell match for two women. I think this year, I don't know if they were either one of them were spectacular in the ring this year, but they both set out to make history. So what did you think about either Charlotte and or Sasha Banks?
Yeah, they definitely both made their marks this year, no doubt. And really what helped it was their long-term feud with each other, which, stretched back not just this year, but the year before back in NXT, and giving them the spotlight and giving them the ability to go out there and just do it, on one hand was great, but I really think that just the way they just kept pushing them and kept pushing them and kept pushing them actually ended up turning me off. I think they've just tried to do everything with them in the last year, and it just got overwhelming in that feud, and it just got way too much for me. Instead of feeling like, wow, this is great, it just felt very forced and put upon, and in a way that turned me off, But both of those women are incredibly gifted and talented. I would just really like to see them be gifted and talented in matches against other people.
So, yes, I understand what you're saying about them being overexposed, but I'm going to go ahead and give my pick to Charlotte Flair just because of the groundbreaking feud that she had with Sasha, headlining pay-per-views on such a major stage. She was undefeated on pay-per-views, so I'm going to go ahead and give it to Sasha Banks. I do want to give some honorable mentions to some independent ladies that I'm familiar with. Randy West, who's been called the toughest broad in professional wrestling. She's held titles that are normally held by men. Kimberly, who has now signed with WWE, but she held the Chikara Grand Championship, which is normally a men's title. And also Heidi Lovelace, who's a friend of the show, who just signed with WWE. She's been super tough over this past year. So any honorable mentions you want to give out, Kev?
I think that's all pretty good.
Okay, all right. Well, let's go ahead and move on then to the male superstar, male wrestler of the year. Who was your choice for that?
Honestly, there are so many people you could load up in this category from lots of promotions, but I think for me, the male superstar of the year has to go to New Japan Pro Wrestling's Kenny Omega. And the main reason is you have to look at the situation where over the last 2 years, the Bullet Club has lost a lot of their talent. Kenny Omega is just, has been a mix in that promotion and, for years, and he's been a force in the Bullet Club, on his own as a junior heavyweight for years as well. But with them losing AJ Styles like they did and losing, just so much of their talent, to have him step up and step in literally just stepped right into it. Just as soon as AJ Styles lost that match last year, he literally put a foot in AJ Styles' ass and said, "Get out of here," and immediately took control of the Bullet Club. And in a way, as a character, completely shored up any issues with the Bullet Club at all. 2016, I think, was just as good a year for the Bullet Club as 2015, 2014. So, as a character, he's done really well. He made his bold announcement that he was no longer going to be a junior heavyweight, and let's be honest, he really isn't a junior heavyweight. He set his eyes on the heavyweight title, and here in just a few days, he's going to be wrestling for that heavyweight title. So, Wrestle Kingdom is coming up once again, and this will be the cap of really just one big year-long storyline for Kenny Omega, and I can't wait to see how it ends.
Yeah, that's a great pick, Kev. Kenny Omega has been tearing it up in New Japan Pro Wrestling, and as you said, not just the ashes of the Bullet Club, but the big talent swing to the WWE for New Japan. They lost a lot of big names over there, so it's great that guys like Kenny Omega has been keeping it as popular as it is. And they do have Wrestle Kingdom, Wrestle Kingdom 11 coming up?
Yes.
Their biggest
I'm sorry, not yes, hi.
Kyle DeWeese, our friend, the comedian Kyle DeWeese, he had chosen Kevin Owens for his work rising up from really a low card to main event scene. Kevin Owens has been tearing it up. I'd say that's a good pick, but Rich Abbott, Rex Sharp, and Rick Craig all picked AJ Styles. And I've got to agree with the three of them. AJ Styles is my pick. I cannot think of anybody that's had a better year in 2016 than AJ Styles, coming on to really to the WWE. I know he's been wrestling for a very long time. Our listeners don't need to say that I don't know what AJ Styles' work has been in the past, but as far as being in the WWE and really on a national scene, AJ Styles, this was basically his rookie year, his debut year, and no one's beaten John Cena that many times. No one's held the championship that longer. Listen to the pop he got when he debuted at Royal Rumble. 2016 was AJ Styles' year. Do you have any thoughts, Kev?
It was definitely a banner year for AJ Styles, and, honestly, Kevin Owens is a great pick as well. That's why I said, it's really tough, and so far with all the picks we've named, I couldn't disagree. I mean, I don't like to have ties, but I think all of those that we've mentioned so far have had such great years.
Yeah. I'm going to throw out some honorable mentions. I don't know. Do you have any honorable mentions that you want to give credit to?
Not right off the top of my head.
Okay. Well, see if you agree with mine. I'm going to say Shinsuke Nakamura and Samoa Joe both deserve honorable mentions because NXT was supposed to be a developmental system, and between those two and help from guys like Finn Balor, who he did not have a great year because Finn Balor's been hurt most of the year, but they really made it a third brand. We talked about him earlier, but Broken Matt Hardy, really, you mentioned it earlier, really made a huge resurgence for TNA Impact Wrestling. I started watching Impact again because of Matt Hardy. So I'm going to say him. And also going to throw out two guys that aren't on TV right now, but probably should be. I'm going to throw out our buddy Drew Skills, who's been tearing it up, and I'm going to throw out Ryback. Ryback was released this year, but I never really liked Ryback, but seeing some of his work in the independent scene and listening to him on his podcast, he's a more interesting character than I would have ever thought.
Yeah.
Do you have any on any of those picks?
All of those are great runners-up as well. They've all had great years. In the runner-up category, I would throw in Michael Elgin as well. He's been a mainstay in Ring of Honor for a long time. But what's been really interesting is to watch his transition from Ring of Honor to New Japan. You saw how his role in Ring of Honor, even as a champion, just seemed to be diminished in favor of a lot of the newer guys. And at the same time, you look at his presence in New Japan, and it just seems like his stock among fans just skyrocketed, which is part of the reason why just a couple of weeks ago he announced he's not re-signing with Ring of Honor. He's signed full time with New Japan now.
Well, when he was on the Undisputed Wrestling show here on Angry Marks Podcast Network, we asked him, would you sign with New Japan full time if you had the opportunity? He said yes. He loved working there, and it was a great fit for him. So good on him, and great choice for a honorable mention there.
Thank you.
All right, this is the Wrestling Nerdcast on the Angry Marks Podcast Network. I am the Bearded Wonder, Zane Pasley. Joining me tonight is our awesome producer, Killa Kev. Killa, we've just got one more category to go, and this is Promotion of the Year. Who would you say was the best promotion in 2016?
And see, that's tough because, I'll be honest, I've not watched a lot of wrestling this year. I know, that's shocking. I am co-owner of a network dedicated to professional wrestling and podcasting about it. But for much of the year, I've honestly not watched a lot of wrestling. So for me, it's kind of tough to pick who promotion of the year should be. So I think I'm going to abstain from that one.
Okay. Well, our buddy Kyle DeWeese, he had picked PWG, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, based out of Los Angeles. That's a good pick. I know that the Bola every year is a huge draw. whenever they run shows, they sell out immediately. So that's a good pick. I'm gonna our buddy Rex Sharp from the Razor Ramones and the Punk Rock and Wrestling podcast. He said Evolve, which is based out of Florida. They've been tearing it up with Ethan Page and Matt Riddle. They've also got this year they've secured some sort of an agreement with WWE to kind of be a feeder system to the NXT brand. So that's another good pick. Rich Abbott and the Prophet Rick Craig, they both said NXT, which I don't have a problem with that. I think that NXT has had great pay-per-views, whatever you want to call them, network specials, strong match of the year contenders on all of those network specials. But I'm going to go a little differently. I'm going to go with SmackDown. When the brand split happened, I did not think that SmackDown was going to be worth watching. It certainly wasn't worth watching before the brand split, but they consistently do so much with their talent. Look at the women's division. They've got Alexa Bliss has skyrocketed over the last couple of weeks. Becky Lynch has been great. Even the secondary storylines like Natalya and Carmella and Nikki Bella have been compelling. So their women's division is top notch, even though they don't have that much talent on there. I didn't name Naomi, but she's been on there, but she's hurt currently. So their tag team division, looking at it on paper, it doesn't seem like it'd be that great. Rhino and Heath Slater were their first ever tag team champions. And man, what a great job that those two did. And then they paired up Luke Harper and Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton to make another tag team that took the championship, and they've done really well with it. You wouldn't think that would do well, but it has. And then American Alpha, and even guys like the Usos and the Ascension, the Hype Bros, all those guys did way better than anyone would have thought that they would have. And then in the main event scene, Dean Ambrose, I never thought was a main eventer. I love Jon Moxley. I think he's great. But I would have never seen him really as a true main eventer. But he elevated his game. And AJ Styles obviously was my male wrestler of the year. And then even guys like John Cena, when he is back, he does phenomenal work. So, for doing so much, exceeding what the expectations were, SmackDown is my choice for promotion of the year. What are your thoughts, Killa Kev?
All great choices.
All great choices. All right. Well, I think we are wrapping up this shortened version of the Wrestling Nerdcast on the AngryMarks Podcast Network. We do plan to come back next week with our predictions for 2017. We didn't do the 3 count tonight because it was kind of a different format. Since we had so many different lists, we didn't want to overwhelm you guys with more numbers. We hope that you enjoyed what we said, and if you have any other honorable mentions for Tag Team of the Year, Female Wrestler of the Year, Male Wrestler of the Year, or Promotion of the Year, please hit us up on the Facebook page for the Wrestling Nerdcast, or you can hit us up on AngryMarks.com. Killa Kev, you got anything else to say? Anything you need to plug before we go?
I think we're done for tonight.